There are 2 things I need you to do before you even consider starting a soap making business. Hi friends, it's Megan from Forge Soap Company, formerly Figs and Feathers Farm. Today we're talking about the things that you need to do before you start your soap making business. The first thing you need to be able to do is make soap. And you need to get good at it. Not just making soap here and there as a hobby, but being able to actually produce enough soap so that you can turn around and sell it is imperative to being a successful soap business. And how do you get good at making soap? Practice, practice, practice. Let's be honest. Everyone who starts out soap making is either going to be buying a kit from Amazon or picking up melt and pour from Joann or Michael's. We all start there. I started there. Over 20 years ago, I started by buying myself melt and pour from Michael's. It was several years later when I moved into cold process soap making, and it was another at least long before you sell any soap, you need to practice, practice, practice. And then you need to give away all of those bars. Those aren't bars for selling because you're not quite at the level that you need to be for selling. Soap making isn't a thing that you're just going to be automatically good at through osmosis. It's a craft that can take years and years to hone and to really perfect. I learned how to make soap more than 20 years ago, and I didn't start selling it until nearly 13 years later. 13 years later. Focus on your craft before turning it into a business. And also, as a side note, between you and me, if you're thinking this is a quick way to get rich,
you're very, very, very mistaken.
Soap making, just like so many other crafts, takes a bit of money and resources invested into it before you're going to see any sort of return. You're also going to need plenty of equipment that goes far beyond anything that you can buy in a kit. For example, most soap makers soap in batches of 5 to 10 pounds. That's anywhere between 50 to 100 ounces of oil alone. You're not going to get that in a kit. Things that you're going to need to invest in: molds, sodium hydroxide or lye, oils or fats, scents, which can be either essential oils or fragrance oils, distilled water, colorants, safety equipment, and all sorts of other things. And those are just the physical components that you need to be able to start making soap professionally. I will list a few of my favorite shops down in the comments. Amidst all of this practice, you really need to learn to make a variety of soaps, all different weights, colors, scents, shapes, etc. This might include melt and pour, cold process, hot process, CPOP, which stands for cold process oven process. You need to get some solid foundational soap making done before you ever consider selling your goods to the public. Why is that so important? Well, for a few reasons. But the first reason is that you are absolutely liable for anything that somebody buys from you, takes home, and uses in their bath or shower. You are liable. You. That means if someone has a bad reaction, an allergic reaction to something that you've made, they can sue you. There are a couple ways that you can protect yourself that we'll talk about in a few minutes. So number 1, you need to get good at making soap. Number 2, everything else, baby. And what everything else includes: learn how to manage social media, learn how to market, possibly barter for services in the beginning if you don't have any funds. Either do photography or you need to hire a professional photographer. This is also where bartering can sometimes come into play. Basic graphic design for your labels, your website. You're gonna have to learn e-commerce, whatever platform you're using. If you're starting out on Etsy, you're still gonna have to learn how to use Etsy. Etsy, Shopify, Wix, Squarespace, Weebly. Those are all e-commerce platforms that take a little bit of finagling and finesse before you can confidently sell your goods to the public. You're also going to need to really hone up on your customer service skills. If you didn't have a job when you were younger in customer service, this is your opportunity to shine. You need to be good at communicating with your customers, selling to your customers, listening to your customers' needs and wants, and respecting what it is that they're asking for. Also, consider setting up wholesale, because once you start selling, there will be local shops that might want to sell your goods. So what does that look like? You're also going to need to learn how to do finances and accounting. You're going to have to do that stuff yourself, which means at the end of every year, you're going to not only have to do taxes for yourself, but you're going to have to do it for your business. That's still happening. If you've been here from the beginning, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, finances. If you can't hire a bookkeeper, you're going to need to learn how to do your finances yourself. The thing is that you have to pay taxes, especially if you live in a state like California where I live. We are expected to collect sales tax from every sale that we make, and I have to turn around and I have to pay those taxes back. But I can't do that without going back and looking through everything and finding out exactly how much money was paid to me by my customers. This is where having a bookkeeper can be really helpful. If you're not great at numbers, see if you you can find somebody who is also going to need to get good at sales. It's a very fine balance between hammering people over and over with what you're selling and also acknowledging that they are people with their own needs, with their own wants. How do you balance those two is always something that we're considering. It can't just be you screaming into the void about your product over and over and over. That turns people off. If you're not sure where to start, I want you to check out some of my favorite soapers. This includes Soap Queen or Brambleberry, great videos. Royalty Soaps, Katie Carson is amazing. Modern Soapmaking, also fantastic. Good beginner stuff, good advanced stuff. The Nerdy Farm Wife is great. Also, I want you to look into getting a membership with the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetics Guild, HSCG. I've belonged to that guild for more than 6 years. And this is where you specifically get insurance to cover your soap making or skincare business. You're going to find out that your homeowner's insurance most likely will not cover anything that you're doing. So that means if, like I said, somebody wants to sue you for something that you've put out there, you need a way to protect yourself. So I have insurance through HSCG, and that gives me up to $1 million in protected coverage. So I want you to look into that. You can get like an apprentice membership for relatively cheap, and you also get access to all of the resources, their conferences. It's a really great place to look into and get support from your community. We'll also have lots of information on labeling and FDA guidelines, because that's something else that you have to take into account. A lot of soap makers miss this, but there are actually laws put into effect by the FDA that states what you need to put onto your labels. That's an important thing to remember when you're starting your soap making business, is to make sure that you have checked all the legal boxes and that there is no reason for you to trip up or fail. So let's revisit. Don't start a soap making business until you've done these two things. Number one, get really, really good at making soap. So good at making soap. Number two, get good at everything else. Social media, marketing, photography, graphic design, e-commerce, customer service, sales, finances, and accounting. And that's just the base layer. There's so much more than that. But do those two things and you too can run a successful soap making business. Thanks so much, friends, for tuning in. I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you didn't, please don't give me a thumbs down. That would just totally bum me out. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time when we talk more soap making and random small business adventures. For example, most soap